Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Norah Veliz. I'm a senior here at Chesterton Academy, and I'm incredibly grateful to be here speaking to you tonight. I would like to begin tonight with an invitation. I would first like to ask my fellow students to look around at the faces of the guests seated at their tables. Your guests are here because they have a desire to support you and a hope for the future. This is not a hope that is to be taken lightly. It is a responsibility that you bear. Now I would like to invite our guests to look at the faces of the students sitting at their tables. They have been preparing for this night for months, practicing our dances, choir songs, conversation skills, and most importantly, table manners, in which many of us were perhaps lacking. We have done all of this with a desire to show most fully to all of you what truly can be when students are challenged to strive for the higher things. Now I have a story to tell you. It was a windy Tuesday in August, and the year was 2021. It was my very first day of freshman year, and while I have forgotten many of the events of that year, I could tell you every detail about that day. As always, Dr. Russell was waiting at the front door to say good morning to each of the students. I was very ready for this moment. Having been coached by my older sister and several of my friends who attended the school, that we ought to say, "I'm doing well," when Dr. Russell asks how we're doing. And whatever you do, don't say good. "How are you today, Miss Veliz?" Dr. Russell asked. "Good," I said, and shook his hand. It was perhaps not the most inspiring beginning, but I do assure you, I have come a very long way since then. In literature this past year, we read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. In one scene, the main character, a boy named Pip, goes to the house of a rich old lady named Miss Havisham and meets a girl named Estella. I won't spoil the book, but he reflects later on about how much that one day altered the course of his life. That very first day of high school was such a day for me. If you had told me that day, or any day that year, that someday, or 3.5 years later, I would be standing in front of about 250 people giving a speech, I probably would have fled in terror at the thought. But that day began a journey that has led me to the place that I am today. A huge part of life at Chesterton Academy is great literature. Obviously, we study the classics in literature class, but we also read great authors in history, philosophy, and theology. Personally, I have always loved reading, but even those who struggle with literature can come to enjoy it, because it becomes more than just trudging through endless pages of the Iliad or Don Quixote. It is a search for meaning and truth of the human experience contained in these works. There are always heated discussions in the hallways after lit classes, arguing about King Arthur, Odysseus, and St. Augustine, to name a few. One of my very favorite books is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, of which the objective best character is Bishop Myriel. His diocese and the people that live in it, himself included, mostly live in poverty. In one chapter, he wants to go visit a group of poor shepherds, but has to pass through an area overrun by a group of brigands. One of his friends advises him against it, asking what he would do if he should meet the robbers. "Oh," said the bishop, "you're right. They too need to be told of the good God." "But they shall rob you," his friend exclaimed. "I have nothing," the bishop said. "But what if you do meet them?" The bishop smiled. "I shall beg alms from them for my poor." This is one of the most prime examples of what I call the sheer audacity of holiness, and that is the level of the strength of character that we are called to have here at Chesterton Academy. And to be completely honest, it seems almost unbelievable at times. I've seen many of the gentlemen at school have very long standoffs in the doorways at school, insisting that the other go first. I've seen students do an absent student's chore without being asked or recognized for their actions. I've heard stories from my fellow students about sharing the faith and having deep conversations with coworkers and friends outside of school. The love for the higher things that we are encouraged to have at Chesterton Academy is not a possibility, it is a promise that I see fulfilled daily. The professionalism and education of our students is owed to many things, but an immense part of it is due to the incredible efforts of our teachers. Mr. Bernhardt, one of our humanities teachers, often spends his lunchtimes outside on nice days in order to let us eat outside. Both Dr. Goldsmith and Mr. Berlinger, our two science teachers, volunteered an enormous amount of time to help me with calculus last semester. Every one of the teachers knows our names, our passions, and our interests, and encourages us to go above and beyond in our learning. I remember one time that one of my classmates asked Mr. Rupert how long he wanted our assigned essay to be, and he said, "I generally refrain from giving you all limits because you like to exceed them." But we all took it as a compliment because it's better than Dr. Russell sarcastically congratulating us when we've actually completed the bare minimum. The community of the school seeks a common goal: to form young men and women who see the problems of the world and seek to heal its wounds. We are claiming back the youth of our society from a growing tide of death that seeks to overwhelm them, and the ultimate key to this is joy. Chesterton Academy gives us something to love and to be devoted to, for which we are challenged to step outside of ourselves and reach out to all of you. Some of my fondest memories here come from the simple, everyday experiences at school. I love playing kickball outside during lunch, singing in the hallways after choir, dancing in the gym, playing cards during finals week, and simply enjoying being alive with my fellow students. Every semester, we have a school retreat at the community of St. John in Princeville, and one of my very favorite parts of the day is when we all clean up after dinner. We have a tradition of singing our choir music while clearing the tables, washing dishes, and sweeping. I would be lying if I said we had any semblance of sounding good. But to us, it doesn't matter in the slightest. As we are often reminded, we are not singing for our personal distinction, but for the glory of God. I desire so ardently for you to know of every joy that I have experienced here, and I wish I could tell you every story of the excitement for life that I see every day. But speech and time are finite, and so I simply wish to express my gratitude for every form of support that you have given. The most common theme throughout G.K. Chesterton's works are his constant reminders that gratitude is the most important pillar to a good and fulfilling life, something that we are constantly reminded of in our classes, by our teachers, and in the works that we study. So I want to say thank you. I've been so blessed to meet many of you tonight, but I know that there are so many more that I haven't met and perhaps might never meet. But I desire so much for all of you to know that when I walk down the hallways of my school, I think of you and all that you have done so that a dream can be a reality. My family can attest to the way that I mope around the house on school breaks because all I want to do is go back to school. My fellow students are probably shaking their heads at me right now, but it's true. Life within the school is a daily adventure, and we embark upon it as a community. One of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis, says that the only bread that we are encouraged to ask for is our daily bread. So I'm trusting tonight that we will always have enough for one more day, because if I could have but one single day left at this school, I know I would take it. I am not asking this of you for myself. I leave the school behind this year, but I know so many of the new generations of students that will be entering the school over the next few years, including my own younger siblings, and I have a great hope for the future. About 14 years from now, my littlest sister, who was back there, will be ready to go to high school, and I hope with all of my heart that the school will be here. I am entrusting this school to my fellow students and all future students. But most of all, I am entrusting the place that has held my joys and brightest moments for the past 4 years to all of you. We cannot continue our mission without your prayers, your time, and your assistance. And so I am asking you tonight to consider supporting Chesterton Academy with a financial donation. We have a goal tonight to raise $200,000. Thanks to generous donors, we have a $40,000 match, and it applies to both recurring donations or one-time gifts. For monthly gifts, the match will apply throughout the entire first year of the gift. At each place setting, you will find a pledge card for the Chesterton Gala and a burgundy envelope. Please mark your contributions under the My Contribution section. You may select a one-time or a monthly contribution, or both. Then, indicate how you would like to make your copayment. If you use a credit card, there is a QR code on the back. You would need to use the camera on your smartphone for this option. If you were employed by or retired from a company that provides a match, please indicate what the match will be and from what company. Then the easy part, your name, address, phone number, and email. Once you have completed the pledge, please place it inside the envelope, and one of our students will come by and pick it up. I am so grateful to you all for giving us your evening and your time, and I hope it has been a wonderful experience of the school for you. Thank you.